Wow, and we have won the roll. Off to a great start. And we have a pretty sweet hand. So this is looking good to just play a turn 2 Warden, turn 3 Anafenza, and potentially a turn 4 Bearer of Silence. And on the play, that is a nice sequence. So long as I can afford to do so, I like leading with a creature land. The reason being is just I want to get one on the board, and sometimes I have things that I can draw that would make it so that I don't end up playing my second come to play tapped land. And I really want to have access to that creature land. It's pretty important to get it on the board. Sylvan Advocate's such a sweet card. You can draw it early, and if you can't play it, still good later on. Also a great card to play like later in the game, just so that you can sequence 2 spells on 1 turn earlier than your opponent's ready to handle. Now I'm playing a league match. I can't imagine my opponent's double queuing. But my opponent's certainly taking a long time. I wonder what he's thinking about. A lot of the times when I get a surprising piece of information, even if I can't act upon it immediately, I'll... Oh, my opponent has disconnected. Well, that explains that. But a lot of times when I get a surprising piece of information, even if I'm tapped out and I can't do anything, a lot of times I'll just pause and think about it for a while, just because a lot of the times when you're in a situation like that, you have to just completely evaluate the game over again and put yourself in a different mindset. In this case, though, our opponent just disconnected. So hopefully he comes back soon. Alright, my opponent has joined the game. Perfect. We are back in action. Uh-oh, I hope my opponent didn't disconnect again. That would be awkward. I wonder if he's playing on a dial-up modem. I wonder if anyone still has dial-up. I have to imagine that there's some like grandmas and grandpas that have dial-up. No self-respecting nerd who plays video games on the internet would have dial-up, though. No way, no how. For those of you who aren't old enough to know what it was like to try to play online video games with a dial-up connection, you guys just really don't know how bad it was and how good you have it now. And I have to imagine that my opponent is disconnecting again, which is pretty unfortunate. Certainly not fun for recording videos. And my opponent's back. And we are against a blue Eldrazi deck. Potentially mono blue, potentially blue-red. And we have a great sequence of plays. Oh, mama. We got the good stuff this game. So I like grabbing the forest there. Just so that I can activate my Hissing Quagmire without taking any pain. My opponent has a Thought-Knot Seer. I have to imagine he's going to take my Bearer of Silence. Ooh, Whirler Rogue. I was going to say, I'd have to imagine take my Bearer of Silence because it's probably going to be really good this game, but Whirler Rogue's kind of good against Bearer of Silence in like a couple different ways. So I think that I just attack. There's a chance my opponent just blocks everything on Anafenza. Like, wouldn't be crazy. Might actually just be the right play. Could also put everything on Warden to make me spend a little more mana, but Anafenza is kind of like a planeswalker in that the longer it sits on the board, particularly the longer it's attacking, the more value it can generate. There's also a chance my opponent just wants to race. Definitely level it up. This is a game where Bearer of the Silence may just do nothing. Sometimes when my opponent taps out for Ojutai and I just Bearer of Silence it, or Ulamog, sometimes it does nothing. Kind of surprised that my opponent made that block, but I wonder if he just plans on casting like a Reality Smasher and just racing back in a big way. Most of the time you would assume that a play like that would be pretty inconvenient, because most people don't play as many 2-drops as I do. So there's the Reality Smasher. There's also a Rogue's Passage, so my opponent may really just be dedicated to the race back plan. Problem with that is I can just make my Warden a 5/5 lifelinker. Not sure if my opponent's really thought us all through. If I draw another land, things go from bad to worse for my opponent. I have to imagine my opponent didn't think this through. I'm sure he's a great player, but I think maybe he's like multitasking or is tired or something. He's got a lot of work to do this game. Can hit me for 11, which is pretty good. If I hadn't gained 5 life, he would, essentially have lethal. But I gained 5 life. That's the problem. When my opponent just has no attacks. Pretty unbelievable. So let's see. This thing, I only needed to get 1 damage across because I have this Siege Rhino. So I'm either going to get 1 damage across or I'm going to get great trades. My Warden of the History does have trample. So I have to imagine that this top deck Siege Rhino is just lethal. Even if my opponent puts his Reality Smasher on the Warden and then tries to just chump block the other two, or like trade and chump, my Siege Rhino is still going to be lethal. Alright, so my opponent's making sure that he doesn't take the trample damage. But I'm still going to gain 6 life, essentially wipe his board. and then play a Siege Rhino. And if I wipe his board, I'm actually probably going to play the... Like, if he... Alright, well, now he's just dead if he's going to do that. Well, that doesn't work. There's trample. Okay, my opponent's dead. Super dead. So that was a situation where I think no matter what my opponent did, he was losing the game. So he's playing in a way where, you know, Siege Rhino or just onboard kills him. So wait, he had... I guess my Warden trampled for 2, not 1. I miscounted. But anyway, so I'm going to take out the Bearer of Silences and the Ultimate Price, because they don't kill things in my opponent's deck particularly well. And I'll bring in the other Valorous Stance, the Wingmate Rocs, and then it's a little bit of a toss-up as to what I bring in next. I can bring in the Transgress the Mind. Sometimes these decks play Hangerback Walker. If they play Hangerback Walker, I like to bring in the Kalitas. But in the dark, I think I'm just going to bring in this Transgress the Mind. Especially against this blue version. The blue version's a lot more focused on running you over. It's actually not a crazy idea to have like 1 Flaying Tendrils, but... I actually kind of like that idea. Yeah, we're going to try Flaying Tendrils. So this isn't something that I've actually tried in this matchup. So it should be interesting. So we've got a good hand, but it's a little counter-synergistic that the Sylvan Advocates have Vigilance, and Anafenza only puts +1/+1 counters onto tapped creatures. And it's also a little troublesome that we have no removal spells, and previously we were a little short on lands. But the 3rd land is a pretty big boon, and you know, certainly making me feel good about the situation. 4th land's even better. And now if we could pick up a removal spell somewhere along the way, that'd be great. Oh, my opponent's so sneaky. Flash 2-power flyer. I mean, I would love to draw that -2/-2 to everything thing. I don't like the -2/-2 spell against the red version. Wow, we did it, folks. Oh, yeah. So how greedy do I want to be with this? I could just wait. I think I'm actually a little more inclined to wait, because there's such a good chance that he plays a Whirl or Rogue on his turn. There's also a reasonable chance that he just plays Thought-Knot Seer, which would be pretty bad. I think I'm going to save it. I would like to get the 2-for-1, but I'd also like to just build my board. I don't have to answer his stuff if I'm just, you know, like doing something better. If I go Anafenza Siege Rhino, it's, you know, better than a lot of the stuff that he's going to do. I just put a lot more priority on having pressure. Like if I get 1 little 2-for-1, that can be good. But I'd rather do something at this stage in the game. A lot of the times I like to focus on playing my threats first and my spells afterwards with these kind of decks. basically sticking with that philosophy. If he plays a Thought-Knot Seer and he takes my Flaying Tendrils, it's kind of like whatever. I still have a Siege Rhino lined up, and then, you know, I can potentially trade my Anafenza for his Thought-Knot Seer. So... Was this Reality Smasher? Yep. Now I'll just double block. Trade my 3-drop for your 5-drop. Yeah, I'll take it. This is why the Abzan deck's so good. You just trade your 3-drop for their 5-drop. Man, that was aggressive. So, I do kind of want to get this Anafenza online. I do have to be worried about an equipment, but I think if my opponent had an equipment, he would have played it already. So I'm going to make the same play that I made last turn. And now this turn, I potentially play Sylvan Advocate and the Flaying Tendrils. Which would be quite nice. Ugh, don't like that. So that's pretty annoying, but still, I don't think that big of a deal, especially considering I have the Siege Rhino in my hand. I will have to play the Siege Rhino this turn, though. I may actually have to play the Flaying Tendrils this turn. So, I can play Flaying Tendrils and the Advocate pain-free, which is pretty sweet. I don't think my opponent's going to block. If he does, then I just take a different line of play. I have to imagine my opponent's not really afraid of 6 damage. If my opponent blocks, like, both of his creatures on my Sylvan Advocate for a trade, then I'll probably just play Siege Rhino this turn, but since he's not, I'm going to play my Flaying Tendrils and Sylvan Advocate. And if he has another Ghostfire Blade, then I'm dead. But if he doesn't, pretty good chance that I win. I have to imagine my opponent didn't see this coming. One thing that I'm a little surprised that he didn't do was sacrifice his Scion to equip his other Eldrazi, but that's certainly something that I've seen a lot of people do. Considering I had the Anafenza out, it would have been a pretty reasonable line of play. So I'm not dead to Reality Smasher. I am dead, or yeah, I am going to lose the game to another one of these Ghostfire Blades. Oh, that's actually really good. That's so good. I do get to activate my creature land and attack with everything, though. So that's also pretty good. And I'm going to be able to make a creature land huge. So my opponent just can't actually attack here. And when I attack, he needs to block with everything. So, despite my opponent having some things break his way, some things not break his way, My deck is just too powerful. And if I were him, I would definitely put his thing on the Thought-Knot Seer, because he can only trade with one creature. So he might as well just not trade with one creature and just trump it in combat. So what's interesting about this is I'm not going to be able to kill that Thought-Knot Seer. And if I can't kill the Thought-Knot Seer, if he draws a land, he can actually... Oh wait, no, he actually just has me dead on his turn. Wow, well done, guy. Man, just barely. Needed one more point of life. And we are toast. Could have just not attacked with Hissing Quagmire, but then he doesn't have to block with his creature. So, alright, so don't think I'm going to make any changes. Flaying Tendrils was pretty sweet. If we didn't have the Tendrils, we would have like a Surrak and a Transgress. So I think the Tendrils are better. We could have not attacked with the creature land last game and bluffed a removal spell, but in the game state, I think our opponent's basically forced to make the attack no matter what. So if he's smart enough to realize that he has a land to give him his creature evasion, I think he's smart enough to realize that he has to go for it. This hand's great though. Even though we don't have a white source, we just have 2-drop into 3-drop into another 3-drop. And these Deathmist Raptors are such a great creature to lean on, especially in a matchup like this. I can just come out with a fair amount of pressure, especially if my opponent doesn't have the turn 2 mana accelerant. If he has the turn 2 mana accelerant, the Sylvan Advocate might get brick-roaded, but Deathmist Raptor, ain't no brakes on that crazy train. Deathmist Raptor just keeps swinging. Ghostfire Blade is certainly one of the things that makes my opponent's deck tick. So I'd really like a white source of mana. White would be pretty good. Wow, this is great. So even though I'm missing white mana, I'm still getting to go 2-drop, 3-drop, and on turn 4 I can go 2 creatures. Pretty good. And I get to do all of it without losing any life. Ooh, I cast that face down. That was not actually correct. I play a lot more in real life than I do on Modo. So outcome of this combat might be the same either way. Actually, it's probably better if he trades with the Deathmist Raptor. Yeah. Wow, so that was a bit of a misclick, but it actually worked out in my favor. It's kind of funny. So with my opponent's extra mana, he's got to be able to do something good on his turn. And for me, I'm just hoping I draw a white mana. If I can draw a white mana, things get really good really fast. Wow, and no 5th land. That's kind of interesting. So let's see here. I would like to clean up as much of my opponent's board before he starts equipping things. So even though it's not that great of a trade, I'm still going to swing with everything. If I had a white source of mana, he could make whatever blocks he wants, and I just wouldn't lose anything. But despite this card being so good, can't cast it without white mana. So at least I'm still pushing damage and cleaning up his board. It's annoying enough that this Thopter is going to be able to equip and potentially trade with something. But it'd be worse if there were just more of them. Also, because of the fact that I'm essentially handicapped with the lack of white mana, it's a little more in my interest to try to make this game shorter while I still have things to do. Especially because I don't actually play great defense against his deck. It's less of a... Can't actually control what he's doing because I don't have that much defense against flyers. So, on one hand, I could attack with the Raptor and the land, and be able to start doing other stuff next turn. Trading with this Eldrazi Scion is super unappealing. Trading the land's actually a little unappealing also because of Sylvan Advocate, but I am worried about just getting beaten down by an Air Force. The other thing too is like these are not ideal trades, but I'm not that disappointed to have 2 Deathmist Raptors in my graveyard. And I do feel advantaged in the long game. So if I can just keep the board relatively clear and preserve my life total, that is all that I want to do. This Reality Smasher is obviously a big problem. So if I do nothing, I could potentially fight this, and really wouldn't be in that good of a situation, so I'm just gonna play my Siege Rhino. If he has another Reality Smasher, it's gonna be really bad. But if he doesn't, things might be okay. Definitely in a bad spot. But he is at 5, so it is good. Also, I say this over and over again, but the fact that Siege Rhino has trample is such a big deal when I have to worry about all these lands activating. So this is a situation where I can actually play around the +3, -3 thing. What's this? Drowner of Hope? Oh! That's a problem. I almost forgot that this deck played that card. That is a problem. So what do I do here? There's not a whole lot I can do. Whoa, he just didn't attack? Dude, why did he not attack? Should have at least attacked with his something. I wonder if he's like worried about Surrak or something. He could attack me to 8 and put me to 1. Oh. A whole lot I can do here, so there's not a whole lot I'm gonna do. So Icefall Regent is quite the problem. Probably means I'm just dead. Well, the lack of white mana was a problem. Ooh, actually I can survive at 1, can I? So I can survive at 1. The problem is I'm essentially drawing dead. Oh wait, no, this is great. Oh, I'm fine. It's kind of a blowout, if it works. My opponent have a counter. I don't even have to discard my other one. Well, this is brutal, if it works. Jeez. I almost missed that, too. It's pretty late in the night. Oh, man. Dude, we're gonna win this. We are gonna win this. Oh, my dear God. We're gonna win this. I mean, if you didn't counter the last one. Can't imagine he counters this one. Dude, insane! Dromoka's command for the epic 2-for-1. Jeez. So brutal. What removal spells would have done that? Huh? Like none. Just the straight 2-for-1 with Dromoka's command. So many of the removal spells don't hit Reality Smasher. But Dromoka's command hits everything.